Hello and welcome to my second review of Car Mechanic Simulator. And the reason for following up on it is that I've now managed to play a few hours in the game to give a more rounded opinion. First thing I would say is the tutorial or lack thereof could easily put you off the game. And I was quite honest about that in the first review that I did. I even followed that up with a helpful hints and tips video, because I do think that with a bit of gentle hand holding you can get past those early stages and really start to enjoy the game. There's lots and lots of different simulators on the market at the moment that range in quality and price and actually complexity. So in terms of where Car Mechanic Simulator sits in there, it's obviously not the cheapest game, it's not the most expensive, and I think once you give it a chance it sits somewhere nicely in the middle ground in terms of that there is some kind of core tasks and repetition, but there's also some complexity as well. So you'll be introduced to the game via the cutscene where it looks like what you're going to be doing is buying cars from auction and then essentially repairing them and selling them on for a profit. That is not the immediate gameplay mechanic. It looks like that's something to work towards, and as you can see we are here in our garage. In terms of working days, there's no timing at all, so what will happen is you will take jobs and complete them at your own pace. There's no kind of time scales to that, although the jobs themselves are taken via a phone and it looks like there is a countdown for your taking them. Hopefully if you are struggling to get past those initial stages, then do check out my beginner's guide, because that takes you through the basic mechanics, and I thought I'd also cover that again. So as well as a updated review, having given the game more of a chance, I thought I'd just quickly recap the basic things that will get you started in the game and get you on your way. So after driving your car around the test track, which oddly enough is the tutorial, you'll be let loose on a garage. Excuse me. As you can see, there's various bits of equipment and you kind of take them around broadly what they do, and then that's pretty much it. So most things that you do are going to be done via the actions wheel, which you can press with the triangle button, and then you're going to be given a couple of different options, and certainly early game most importantly is the orders there. So as you can see, the only kind of timed element in the game is how long you've got to complete the jobs. And so if I just take the one that's going to expire soonest, which is this one, and that is going to deliver a vehicle into our garage, and there is the first challenge in that. When I initially played this, I spent quite a bit of time wondering how on earth I got this onto the ramp, and having driven around a test track, assumed I'd have to get into the vehicle and drive it there, and that assumption was wrong. So as you can see visually, the game relies quite a lot on those visual cues of where the rust is. Don't worry, you're not going to have to repair every panel on this car at this particular stage. The first thing we want to do is get it onto the ramp to see what's going on, and to do that it's back to the actions wheel. So if you're not highlighting a vehicle and you go to the actions wheel, it's going to essentially bring up those main options. Once you're on the vehicle itself, it's going to bring you up a set of different options, and first and foremost we want to move the car, which is this one here, and at the moment we've only got a couple of options. We've got some parking and the car lifter. So I think what we can do is, as we progress through the game, we can probably go and buy vehicles and restore them to the former glory, and then there are various test tracks on the world map. So we've got that over on the lifter. As I referred to the world map, let's just take a quick look. So if we click on the main gate, then you can see that there are some destinations on the map. Not all of those are available at the moment, so my next big aim is to get to a point where we can unlock the car auctions. So rather than just general car repairs, we can start to make those big bucks by buying cars and flipping them, essentially. Back to the vehicle itself, and back to the vehicle itself. Distracted there. And now that it's on the lifter, we can start to operate it, and I won't go through all of the game mechanics again, but just to give you a broad idea if this is in fact a game that you'd enjoy. The top tips are, firstly, when you click on your vehicle and you go back to that menu, if you go to car status, then it will tell you early game exactly what it is you need to change in order to complete the repair. So we got to change the engine, oil and filter, and that breaks it down into the different parts that we need, and same for replace all filters. So the easiest way to progress through the game, or at least keep track of what you're doing and what you need to buy, is then to press square on each of those parts that you need. And my cursor seems to have gone missing. Change oil. Okay, so sorry, I was pressing track and wondering why change oil and drain wasn't flagging, but that's because that's not a trackable part. Okay, so we've pressed square to track each of those parts, and the benefit of that is that once we go to the vehicle itself, as you can see at the moment, there's not really any visual cue as to where you might need to be working on the car. So if you've got a broad knowledge of vehicles, then you know roughly where you should be heading. So if it's oil, it's probably going to be in the engine. But once we start clicking anywhere on the vehicle itself, then because we track those parts, they're going to be highlighted in blue. As you can see, there's quite a lot going on here at the moment, so that's really useful. As you move around the vehicle itself, with the cursor, so with the left thumbstick you kind of move around the environment, with the right one you move the cursor. The parts that you can disassemble will be green, so we can see there that the oil filter is a part that we need to replace. Visually it's very rusty. It's also green, which means that if we hold down X we can remove it. And the basic guidance of the game, if we go back to the parts menu, which we can do again via that actions wheel, which is the triangle button, we go back to car status, then we can see what we need to replace. Also, within that wheel, we can go to our inventory. And this is useful because we can have a look at the parts that we've taken off. So this will be a bit confusing at the moment because I've got various different parts. But the oil filter, you can see that's at 27% condition. So the game will guide you on the minimum condition of parts that you need to repair. So we can't put that oil filter back on. We are going to need to go and buy a new one. And if we go to car status, if we go to our inventory and that part, then the next very useful hint and tip for then tracking the parts is, one, you've tracked what it is you need to buy. If you press the middle button on the controller, so I'm playing this on PS5, or I'm sure that's the same for PS4, then you see at the bottom there, hopefully on the screen, that that's going to add it to a shopping list. And that means that once we go over to the computer to buy the parts, which I'll show you, then if we press the options button, then you'll see our shopping list appears there. Now that's quite an extensive shopping list at the moment, just because that is from my last job. So next, what we need to do is then go and find that. And there's two ways we can do that. We can either cycle through the sub-menus with R1, L1 and R1, and go through to find the oil filter. And you can see there's quite a lot of parts there to go through. Alternatively, by pressing the square button, you can start to type in some of... Whoops, I was a bit too eager there and I was looking for an O. Once we start narrowing that down, then you can see there that there's different parts, and we want an oil filter. Click on that. We could choose the quantity that we need. It will show us a price. Clicking X again will put that into our menu, and that will enable me very nicely to show you how we then reinstall the parts. So we are defaulted when we go to the working on the vehicle to disassembly, back to the trusty triangle button. This time we want to go to part mount, and because we track the part, you can see that it's in that lovely blue color. That means that we can track it. If we hover over it and it's green, that means that we can fit it. Let's go ahead and do that. And you can see that we've got both the old and the new one. The game will default to the new one because we don't want to put the old one back on. And that is fitted. If we then go back to our progress menu, which is back to the car status, then we'll see that that's ticked off as done. Now, if there's quite a number of jobs that you need to do, then the next top tip is to go onto that particular part and untrack it. So we tracked it so we could see where it was on the vehicle. That means that whenever we go there, it's going to appear in blue, but actually we've completed that. So by clicking untrack part, then you can probably see if we go back in, it's no longer highlighted in blue. So that's a really good way to work around the vehicle. What you'll have to do is there will be parts that you need to change that you won't be able to access, and so that's done in layers. So if you just move around near the part that you need to replace, you will see in green the bits that you can either take apart or reassemble. In terms of reassembly, then it can look very, very complicated. Don't worry too much about that because it works in layers and will usually pretty much automatically move on to the next part that you can assemble. And with that, that is the core gameplay mechanics of Car Mechanic Simulator. Jobs can range from fairly quick ones, which will take 15 to 20 minutes, and obviously then there's longer jobs. So there's a nice amount of immersion. You don't fly through the levels, and that is, so I should show that, is when we go to our toolbox. As we go through and repair vehicles, then we get more cash and we also get more experience. So I am at experience level 4 at the moment, and I've spent those on 50% parts examination, or 50% faster I should say, and it made sense to get a little bit of a discount on the parts that we buy. So the next one is that we can expand our garage, add in a test path and a repair bench. It's nice. That should open up different amounts of jobs. I'm just going to have a little look to see. I thought that that hammer there might have been the ability to go to auction. I don't know at what level that's going to unlock. It's not obvious from there actually. So hopefully at some point we get to a point where we can go to unlock the auction option, and that would then give a different mechanic and gameplay loop. So I'm going to play through this a little bit more. It's a nice pace to kind of pick up a job or two and in a short playthrough session, if that's the way you like to approach your gameplay. And it's good to get those different things unlocked. So as I go through, if there's anything more helpful I can pop into a video, I will of course do so. and if there's anything more that I think would be relevant to feedback in terms of reviews, again, I will do so. If this has been useful, then if you can give it a thumbs up, that really helps out. And of course, the comment section's there if there are any questions about the game, any bits you're stuck on, don't understand, or indeed if you've played through further on than I have and there's anything that you think would be useful to pass on, that would be much appreciated. I am going to be doing, I think, probably a mini series on the game where I will try and do one repair per video, and there's also other content on the channel about other simulator games. So we have Recycling Centre Simulator, where each episode is a day in the life of as we go through the levels, and the other one, I'm trying to think what that is, Hypermarket Simulator. I had to think there for a moment. And again, the format there, because it fits quite nicely, is to do a day in the life of Hypermarket, and so that is split between restocking and daily sales. Both are games I'd recommend, so if you are interested, then do go over and check those out. And if you hit the subscribe button, it is free, it only takes a second, and you will get a little notification as I upload videos. Thank you for watching.